This is the entire Family Guy iceberg explained, starting off at the tip of the iceberg with the obsession with death, which refers to the fact that in season 1 of Family Guy, 4 out of the 7 episodes have the word death, dead, or murder in the title, with season 2 then carrying on this trend by having episodes such as The King is Dead, and of course, the infamous Death is a Bee.
Who are you?
I'm Callista Flockhart. Who the hell do you think I am? I'm death.
And the reason for this obsession, as Seth MacFarlane would state in his season 1 Family Guy commentary, is that he was heavily inspired by radio suspense dramas of the 1930s and 40s that would also use morbid titles to entice their viewers.
The title of each episode would be a very ominous title borrowed from an old 40s radio suspense drama.
However, after a while of doing this, it simply became too difficult to keep coming up with new death-related episodes. Which, I mean, honestly, I can't blame them, that does actually sound quite hard. And with Seth MacFarlane deciding that most viewers wouldn't get the reference anyway, this death-related episode naming was quickly scrapped. Although, despite death being removed from the Family Guy episode names, this did not stop the show from keeping its obsession with everything morbid, which we will see as we get deeper into the iceberg.
Hey, don't worry. I'll be back really, really soon. Is he joking? Okay, see you later.
All throughout Family Guy, Stewie's sexuality has always been a brilliant running gag, with various cutaways and offhand remarks from Stewie informing the audience that he may have more than just a friendly admiration for men.
Well, despite your point of view, I can thrill a girl or two. But I'd rather get it on with you.
However, in 2018, we finally got some clarity on Stewie's sexuality when Family Guy executive producer Alex Sulkin stated that the Family Guy staff wanted to leave the question of Stewie's sexuality open for interpretation. And by having Stewie's sexuality ambiguous, the show doesn't fall down the dark path of just making gay jokes for the sake of it. Although I must say, I do find this rather hard to believe after watching season 13. And boy, if you know, you know.
What have you done?
I think you mean, what have we done?
What?
Brian, we're pregnant!
Oh my God!
Okay, so Family Guy lost episodes don't refer to those stories on Reddit, where there's an alleged episode where Brian or, I don't know, Stewie loses their minds and wipes out the entirety of Quahog. But rather, I am talking about actual lost episodes, such as Season 8's Partial Terms of Endearment and Season 3's When You Wish Upon a Weinstein, which were both instantly banned in America and deemed too offensive to air. And funnily enough, When You Wish Upon a Weinstein was actually the first ever Family Guy episode to be banned.
Wondrous dancing speck of light, I need a Jew.
With Fox straight up refusing to air the episode as they deemed it anti-Semitic. Although, it seemed like not too many other countries agreed with this, as When You Wish Upon a Weinstein was then broadcast all over the rest of the world. And I mean, hey, this was actually one of my favorite episodes growing up in the UK.
What do you want?
Financial advice?
Financial advice? How the hell did you know I'm an accountant?
Hello, Max Weinstein?
And as for Season 8's Partial Terms of Endearment, well, this episode was banned from ever airing in the US because of its controversial portrayal of terminating a human pregnancy, with this episode still being banned to this day on all streaming services, with Family Guy even using this banned label as a way to market this episode. And so, as we venture down the Family Guy iceberg, we now have one of the most chilling occurrences in the entire series. And that is that the show's creator, Seth MacFarlane, was actually meant to be on one of the planes that was destined for the 2001 September 11th attacks. However, after drinking heavily the night before and having a scheduling mess up with his travel agency, Seth was able to narrowly avoid being involved in one of the biggest catastrophes in American history.
I was giving a lecture at my old college in Rhode Island, and was, went out for a few drinks afterwards. Was hungover the next day,
Right.
and missed the flight. I got got to the counter and they said, I'm sorry, they just closed the gate, you're too late.
Wow.
Something which, perhaps due to his own survivor guilt, he would then later include in a cutaway gag in season 10.
I'm 10 minutes late for work. Look at that. I stayed up late watching Monday Night Football and that saved my life, huh? Isn't that awesome? Oh.
And honestly, there have been countless references to 9/11 throughout Family Guy. From Lois using it to win over undecided voters, to Brian and Stewie actually going back in time and making sure that 9/11 happens after they alter the timeline.
9/11. Oh, there it is. We did it, Brian. We made 9/11 happen. High five!
All right, high five!
Hey! Well, that probably wouldn't look very good out of context.
Okay, so this is a theory that has been circulating in Family Guy forums for what feels like decades now. In fact, I even remember talking about this with my friends when I was younger, when we noticed a glaring difference in the stories that Joe told on how he became disabled. However, before we get into that, today's video is sponsored by Control. And if you want to start smashing your fitness goals and eating healthier today, well then Control has you covered, as they offer a wide range of protein cookies, bars, and even meal replacement shakes, with their products being low in sugar, high in protein, and of course, most importantly for me, tasting incredible. No joke, Control make the best tasting protein products that I've ever had, which is perfect for me, as whether I'm out playing football or at the gym, or hey, even making YouTube videos, Control has allowed me to stay on top of my nutrition and keep healthy. And so, if you want to join me in making a healthy change, then go to control.com and use code Harry for 10% off of your order. And I personally recommend using their bundle builder, where you can try all of their products at a discounted rate. And of course, a massive thank you to Control for sponsoring this video. You see, in season 1's A Hero Sits Next Door, Joe tells the residents of Quahog that he broke his legs fighting off the Grinch while saving a children's orphanage.
Kiss my green ass. I shall see you in hell.
However, Joe then abruptly changes his story in season 11, as he tells Peter and Quagmire that it was a gangster called Bobby the Shirt Briggs that shot his legs off, with the reason for him doing this being that Joe was wearing the most obvious wire in human existence.
And get ready to spend the rest of your life as a lame gimp with an annoying voiced wife.
He'd met Bonnie.
And so, because of the inconsistencies in Joe's stories, combined with the fact that we actually see Joe walking or standing a number of times, this has led to many fans of Family Guy speculating that Joe has been lying this whole time and can actually walk.
Well, God said I could walk just one time. I was saving it for Susie's wedding day, but...
As for me, I'm not entirely sold, but let me know in the comments, what do you think? The Family Guy movie is something that fans of the show have been asking for since the early 2000s, with die-hard Family Guy fans even going so far as to write their own scripts and storylines for this non-existent movie. And in 2005, we got the closest thing that we will ever get to a Family Guy movie, which, of course, is the straight-to-DVD set of Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story.
Stymie Gruffin, The Untold Story? It's not a movie at all, Brian. Just 3 episodes back to back. This thing is an insult.
Well, that might be overstating things a little.
That's right, instead of a movie like the fans had been clamoring for, Family Guy instead decided to pull the ultimate cash grab and stick 3 episodes into a DVD. But hey, that slap in the face hasn't been nearly enough to stop fans of the show, including myself, from anticipating a movie ever since. Although honestly, it's probably for the best that we don't get a Family Guy movie, considering how bad the recent episodes are. Abandoned kids simply refers to the disturbing amount of children that are abandoned in Quahog. From the infamous prom night dumpster baby, to even Meg seemingly abandoning her own child in her high school locker.
Mama! What are you doing out of your box?
However, this isn't even nearly the end of it, as of course we have Quagmire with his infinite amount of children abandoned across the globe, as well as Brian, who has not only neglected his son Dylan once, but after hearing that he's a successful child actor, comes back into his life just to abandon him again.
I'm on my way to Quahog.
Oh, really? When are you getting here?
Tuesday.
Oh, don't say Tuesday. I'm out at the project all day.
Although this isn't nearly as bad as Peter, whose horrible, neglectful parenting ultimately led to his son Peter Griffin Jr. sadly passing away.
I'm sorry, Lois. I thought if I shook him enough, he'd stop crying. I was kinda right.
Family Guy being written by Manatees comes from the all-time classic South Park episodes Cartoon Wars Part 1 and 2, in which South Park takes brutal shots at what they view to be the inferior and nonsensical writing of the Family Guy staff, with Cartman even going so far as trying to get Family Guy cancelled before realizing that Family Guy isn't even written by humans at all, but rather is written by Manatees.
Well, here we are. Danny, the Family Guy writing staff.
What?
And the most shocking part about all of this is that Matt Stone and Trey Parker would then double down on their hatred of Family Guy in the DVD commentary for this episode, with the pair making their feelings towards Family Guy very clear.
Do you really not like Family Guy, or are you? And I just want to say for the record right now, like, we've seen Family Guy. We do hate it. We do hate Family Guy.
And in a rather funny turn of events, The Simpsons as well as King of the Hill seem to really appreciate this shot at Family Guy from South Park, with The Simpsons sending the South Park team flowers and King of the Hill a heart-filled letter. Although in recent years, thankfully Family Guy seems to have a much better relationship with The Simpsons and King of the Hill. Although boy, the same cannot be said about South Park.
Matt Groening is a friend of mine. I have nothing but warm feelings about that show.
What about South Park?
They can go to hell.
And so, as we plunge down deeper towards the bottom of the Family Guy iceberg, we have one of the strangest coincidences in the show's history. You see, on March 17th, 2013, Family Guy aired the episode Turban Cowboy, which depicts Peter winning the Boston Marathon by plowing his car through countless people.
I haven't felt a rush like this since I won that marathon.
And only 1 month later, on April 15th, 2013, the Boston Marathon really was attacked, with this then leading to mass speculation that Family Guy was somehow aware of the attack and able to predict it, with this speculation only being further fueled by fake clips that spliced together different parts of the episode in order to make it seem that Peter had planned to blow up the marathon, although thankfully these clips were then later scrubbed off of the internet. The theory that Peter is clinically insane isn't exactly a new one. However, after the cancellation of Family Guy in 2002, fans noticed a shift in Peter's character when the show was brought back 3 years later, with Peter going from a clumsy, lovable family man to an outright sociopathic monster, who honestly wouldn't even bat an eyelid at taking a life or committing horrible acts against his family.
Hey, Dad, that's a cool whip. Ah, I thought you couldn't understand me!
And so, naturally, this has led to fans of the show to speculate that something happened to Peter whilst in cancellation purgatory. Something so horrible that it made him completely psychotic.
But what? I can't believe you. What?
I don't know, Doctor. Looking back, I think it may have been real butter.
Your husband murdered 3 children.
And honestly, this isn't the craziest theory out there, pardon the pun, as once Family Guy returned, Peter was never the same. So much so that he now sees Quahog as his own personal playing ground, as opposed to the early season Peter who would always try and build his own community up. Bonnie's postpartum psychosis theory is that whilst pregnant, Bonnie was always a loving wife to Joe and a cheerful character in the main Quahog cast.
The movers tracked grease all over my carpet. I tried everything to get the stain out.
What about lemon juice?
Oh, what about club soda?
What about shutting the hell up?
However, after Bonnie finally delivers her baby in season 7, this seemingly opens the floodgates of hell, as not only does Bonnie travel to Paris to cheat on Joe.
Why'd you even want to come here then?
Lois, I came here to have an affair.
An affair? With who?
Anyone?
But Bonnie then goes on a murderous rampage against her husband, finding every single possible way under the sun to try and brutally execute him.
Can you open the sliding door? I'll take it.
And if all of this wasn't bad enough, which, I mean, it is, well, in season 14, Bonnie then runs away with Brian, which, if nothing else, surely running away with a dog will convince you that Bonnie has had postpartum psychosis since having her baby. Okay, so there have been countless video essays covering the fact that somewhere along the way, Brian Griffin stopped being an introspective and funny character, and instead morphed into a pretentious douche that now everyone hates.
You failed college twice, which isn't nearly as bad as your failure as a father. How's that son of yours you never see? But you know what? I could forgive all of that, all of it, if you weren't such a bore.
However, this theory states that it was actually Brian's heavy drinking in the early seasons, along with his bad trip in season 10, that completely destroys his character development. And honestly, I have to agree, as we see Brian's drinking and frequent drug use in the early season cause him to start doing some absolutely abhorrent things, including abandoning his son Dylan, and of course in season 6, when Brian tries to make a move on Lois despite her being his best friend's wife.
Ah, my head is swimming. Oh my god, Brian, no! No, stop it! What are you doing?
I can't help myself, Lois. I know you're married to Peter, but I love you and I can't stand it anymore.
And in my view, the thing that gives this theory credit is that all of Brian's bad characteristics get enhanced with his bad trip, as it's here that Brian is confronted with all of his previous misdeeds, including betraying Peter by advancing on Lois, which is portrayed by having evil versions of himself slowly torturing Peter.
Round. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Peanuts!
And we also see Brian's guilt via Lois's physical form, as she then takes the form of a snake, which, of course, once more serves to remind Brian that he acted in a disingenuous way.
Wanna have sex?
And so, after this bad trip, one would assume that Brian would then check his ego and not act in such a self-righteous way. However, boy, one would be wrong. In fact, Brian has become so insufferable that he's gone from being one of the most beloved characters in animation to now being one of its most hated, with this, in my view, being caused by his heavy drinking and bad drug trip. So, here we are in the very deepest depths of the Family Guy iceberg. And of course, with that comes the infamous dream theory. Although, unlike other shows where people say, oh, SpongeBob's just dreaming this whole time, or I don't know, a brick from the middle is just dreaming this whole time. Family Guy is actually a lot different, as there is actually two brilliant examples of the show being inside someone's head, with the first of these being in season 2's Da Boom, where after all of the chaos of the nuclear fallout of Quahog, we then see real-life actress Victoria Principal telling Patrick Duffy that she dreamed this entire episode of Family Guy.
I just had the weirdest dream. I dreamt I saw the strangest episode of Family Guy, and there was a giant chicken, and Stewie was an octopus.
Hey, come on now. It's all right. Everything's gonna be okay. What's Family Guy?
And we then see an even creepier version of this in season 4's Petergeist, with this of course being a brilliant parody of Poltergeist, where we see Peter peeling off his own face to reveal none other than Hank Hill from King of the Hill.
Propane.
And this has then led to wide speculation that Family Guy is all just a wacky dream. And hey, perhaps it's even a dream that takes place in the King of the Hill universe. Okay, so have you ever wondered why, despite having interacted with Jesus on multiple occasions, that Brian is still an atheist?
Brian, you're a thoughtful person. Are you willing to open yourself up to God's truth?
Oh, you're barking up the wrong tree, Meg. I'm an atheist.
Well, this can be explained with the theory that Brian and Stewie are actually gods. Well, at least in the Family Guy universe, which honestly, I believe is absolutely the case. As you see, in season 9's The Big Bang Theory, Stewie's arch nemesis Bertram decides that using Stewie's time machine and killing his ancestor Leonardo da Vinci is the best way to ultimately kill Stewie for good.
I am gonna kill one of your ancestors, effectively erasing you from history! Here, play with this. At least you can spend your final moments doing something you enjoy.
However, what Bertram didn't know is that earlier in this same episode, Brian and Stewie broke their time machine and actually ended up in a space where the universe no longer existed.
Non-existence. No past, no future, no universe. But still somehow a large, brightly colored promo for the Cleveland show.
And because the pair were eventually able to create the Big Bang Theory, which, created the universe, this means that they are gods within the Family Guy universe, which honestly explains all of the craziness that ensues afterwards. From the multiverse travel to Stewie being able to bring Brian back after he dies in season 12.
Brian, look out!
And so, this is the ultimate Family Guy iceberg. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything, and of course, you believe everything in this iceberg.